Hi guys, I'm Gasha. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to our coffee times together. And today I'm here to bring you my February reading wrap up.
It's coffee time!
So in the month of February, I decided to join the Adultathon because the creator, the lovely Olivia, she asked me if I wanted to co-host it with her and with Jess. So I said, obviously, yes, thanks, please. And we even did a live show, which was the first time I was ever doing a live show. It was so much fun. And I hope you guys, if you joined the Adultathon, you were able to read some adult fiction. I am proud to announce that I was able to finish my TBR pile for the month of February. So that means that all the books that I had planned for the Adultathon, I finished. So I did accomplish all of the different challenges, and I also read a couple of extra books. So all in all, I read a total of 12 things in the month of February, which is a lot. So I am really happy. 3 of them were audiobooks, but we'll get to those. So let's start, as always, from the lowest to the highest rating, so we always end up in a good note. First of all, we have The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, and this is the classic that I chose to read for the Adultathon. I was excited about it because, you know, I was always hearing the name of this book. It's very popular. It has been adapted many times. It has been even like some books have taken from The Turning and made their own kind of remake stories. So I was like excited to get to the origin material. And also there's a new movie coming out, I believe in April this year. So I was like, I want to read this before I watch the new movie. Luckily for me, this book was short, but even reading it in physical form was putting me to sleep. It was just so monotone and everything was just so bland. There was no excitement, there was no thrill, there was nothing there to keep me excited and engaged. So luckily I did find an audiobook and I was able to finish this book because I really wanted to finish it, but it is one that sadly it was not for me. It is kind of like a ghost story, in case you're not familiar with the story. So we meet a bunch of strangers that on Christmas Eve they're kind of sharing like spooky stories, and one of the guys says he's going to share a story of a manuscript that he found from a nanny, and that it is a true story, and it tells the story of this girl that goes to work to this house to take care of 2 children, and spooky things start to happen. So a very basic classic ghost story, but I was just hoping that it was gonna give me something to keep me a little bit, you know, invested in the story, to have a little bit of like, you know, expectation when it comes to the story. It was just, everything was so boring that if it was not for the audiobook, I don't even know if I would be able to finish this book, and it is under 200 pages. Next, with also 2 coffee mugs, which I should have probably given it even less. It is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So I saw people having so different opinions about this book. People either love it or hate it, but I did hear that it is a very disturbing story and not for everybody, but normally I do like disturbing stories. I agree that it had a lot of trigger warnings, like, you know, murder, sexual assault, like nearly all the trigger warnings that you can imagine. However, there was a big problem with this book, and it is that it's so messy. Nearly nobody can completely explain what happens in this book. Like, when you're reading it, and I remember I was already halfway through the book, I still didn't know what the heck was happening. So that is a problem. Like, the main story is about a girl called Alex, and she comes from a kind of like a bad past where she had drug abuse. So I had high hopes for this because everything sounded like a dark version of Harry Potter in a way, because it is this girl that you know, she is granted the chance to go to this school, and they have these different houses, and there is magic involved and dark magic, obviously. And so I was like, this could be really good. However, even though it does have some bloody parts, it has some interesting parts when it comes to the magic and all of that, it was so messy. Like, it is written from different perspectives, and you get so extremely confused that you are not even able to describe the characters and you don't know at some point who they are anymore. You can only slightly follow Alex because she's a little bit more the main character, but even then, not until you pass the half mark of the book you're able to follow up with the story. So that's a big problem for me. But even then, I didn't like any character, not even Alex, because she was supposed to be this badass character that has this you know, bad past, so she's been through a lot, so she's not gonna take you know, anything from anybody. But she acts sometimes in ways that I'm like, really? Like, it doesn't even make sense anymore. Like, sometimes she is this tough girl, and other times she just seems stupid and naive to me. So, like, which one is it? Like, I don't know. I just couldn't connect to any characters. I got like half of the plot. And it was such a journey to push myself through this book, but I really wanted to because I buddy read this with other people and because I wanted to read it for the adultathon. I'm happy I have it behind me. Will I give it another chance in the future? Maybe. We will see. But let's say I really had high expectations for this one, and it just was really disappointing. Also, with 2 coffee mugs, we have The Water Voices by Kevin Grover. This was sold to me as a paranormal thriller, so I was expecting a little bit more of the paranormal. Unfortunately, this story kind of focuses more on family drama and messed up relationships and trust and grief and all of these things. So it's kind of like more of a thriller drama. And for me, this cover and the fact that they are advertising these as paranormal thriller doesn't really fit with the content. The paranormal part of this book is like 10% and the rest is just family drama. Let me just put it that way. Also, trigger warning for sexual abuse and murder. So in this story, we're following a girl that is having trouble to adapt back to her life after she split up with her boyfriend that has left her without money. And it is about her relationship with her brother, with a friend, and basically it's a story in which the dead don't stay dead. So that's the kind of paranormal part of the story. Some of the things that I did not like at all, and the reason of my rating is, one, that there are a lot of jumps into the past, and there are big chunks of the book that do that towards the end, and it completely breaks the flow that you had with the book, and it just feels like weird and just like, you know, as if it was added as a second thought and it was not planned from the beginning. And also towards the end, there is some bad representation, in my opinion. There is supposed to be some characters are queer, but for me it was done poorly. I didn't like at all how the representation was handled and other things. And so that's why I had to give it only 2 coffee mugs. And now with 3 coffee mugs, that really breaks my heart because I was hoping to love this more. We have Night Fliers by George R.R. Martin. After loving A Song of Ice and Fire so much, and also Fever Dream, which is his book about vampires, I thought, you know, I would try his sci-fi work. And this is kind of sci-fi horror, so I was, you know, having high expectations about it. Plus, I got the illustrated edition because the illustrations are just precious, which was one of the best things about this book. I mean, I love the main plot. We're following this crew that goes into a spaceship called Night Flyer, and while they're there, they realize that there is some kind of technology, some sort of like being that is turning against them, and weird things start to happen. People start to die. So, you know, I love those kind of stories actually. I love horror combined with science fiction. However, I guess it is mostly because this book was so short. There were many different characters and I just felt like I didn't have time to get to know them. I didn't have time to connect with them. And sometimes I would even confuse them between each other because I just did not have the time to really, you know, kind of learn about them and know in my head who is who. And so that would be, you know, one of my points of criticism towards this book. Now there is a show, and I heard the show was worse than the book because they didn't follow the book, but since I didn't enjoy the book as much as I thought, I might give the show a try. With 4 Coffee Max, we have Strange Girls, Women in Horror, an anthology by Athura Knox. And we have here 22 great stories. They are all completely different, so you get something for everybody. What I loved about this book is that they are really pushing women, and they are trying to, you know, portray women in horror and in different perspectives, and I really enjoyed that. I also appreciated that in some of the tales, because of the content, they do inform you beforehand with a trigger warning, which is much appreciated, and also that at the end of every story you get a little bit of information about the author, which I thought it was also pretty cool and informative if you want to read other things from the author. So this is a great horror anthology if you're looking for a new one. Also with 4 Coffee Max, we have The Woods Are Dark by Richard Lehman, and I really love this book. I think it's also a great book to start with Richard Lehman because it's short, and when you're reading Richard Lehman, you need to put already disclaimers for everything. He tends to use, you know, sexual assault, murder, gore, rape, he gets very graphic describing all the murders, all the tortures, all the sexual assault and rape. So just in case you don't like those kinds of things, I would not recommend you to read him at all. So just putting that out there. In this story, we're following a small town that keeps a very dark secret, and there are some creatures living in the woods that are called the Krull, and they have a pact with them to have peace. And so we kind of follow different characters, and I really love that about the book, that each chapter is told by a different perspective, but you know, they are all kind of intertwining stories, and towards the end everything starts to, you know, mesh up together, and I think he did a great job to do that. I think he has a lot of experience doing that. Most of his books that I have read so far have been told by different perspectives, and then towards the end he kind of merges all the story together, and I think he is a master when it comes to that. Everything just flows so naturally, so I really enjoyed this story. Also with 4 Coffee Mugs, we have The Influence by Ramsey Campbell. I was really excited about reading this one. I thought that I was gonna enjoy it, but I ended up loving it more than I thought. This is a classic ghost story. We're following a family in which the matriarch has passed away, so we get to see the family in the very beginning at the funeral, and from then on we get to follow the different members of the family, and we get to explore the dark story that we are about to experience. And I absolutely love the fact that it was very atmospheric. It was a book that you saw the twist, but when it was already in front of you, so it's not something that I saw coming from the very beginning or anything. Like, you have kind of an idea, but I think it was still very effective, and I absolutely loved that in this story, the exploration of, you know, a ghost and what a ghost can do. It's a little bit different than in other ghost stories. So if you're looking for a good classic story about ghosts, I would definitely recommend you to check this one out. And now that I have read the book, I'm ready to watch the movie adaptation, which is a Netflix exclusive that I have been waiting to watch because I wanted to read the book first. With 4.5 Coffee Max, we have Take the Long Way Home by Brian Keene. This is a short novella, and I absolutely loved it. This is a great, gory kind of apocalypse scenario, and basically we're following humanity as one day the apocalypse comes, and all of those stories about the end of the world, you know, start to happen, and we follow a couple of different characters that have completely different perspectives about the end of the world, and I just thought it was great. I was so engaged. I read it in one go. I absolutely loved it, and it was so nice and gory. So yeah, if you're looking for a great short story about the apocalypse, this one's for you. Then obviously I read my mystery book for the month of February, which I can still not tell you anything about, but I decided also in the month of February, and you know, to kind of get ready for a release that it's coming soon, I reread the Hunger Games trilogy. Now, I knew I was not gonna have time to reread this in physical form because I already had a lot of other things that I was reading, so I was happy that I found audiobooks for these three. So I listened to the audiobooks, which audiobooks, you know, are not always something that work for me, but when I'm already familiar with the story, like with the Hunger Games books, then it's easier for me to just listen to the audiobook and really get all the information out of them. So yeah, I listened to the audiobook of the three of them, and I ended up giving them the same rating that I gave them the first time I read them. Basically, Hunger Games and Catching Fire are 5-star books for me, and Mockingjay is 4.5, because the ending was very disappointing for me. So I think by now you have either read the books or watched the movies, but I'm still gonna give you a little quick synopsis on the story. So basically, we're living in a dystopian society in which the world is divided in different districts, and the capital is the main sort of district where the, you know, president lives, President Snow. And there are every year a games called the Hunger Games, in which a female and a male from each district are chosen to fight to death in the arena. There can only be one survival. This is being made every year to remember people to respect the capital, to follow the rules, basically to obey and be a robot, like they said in They Live. And basically, we're following the story of Katniss Everdeen and how she made it into the first games that she had to fight for her life. And yeah, I just really love this one. I think this is one of my all-time favorite YA, you know, trilogy series, etc., because it is just so engaging, and it was much darker than I expected, and the characters are so well fleshed out. I really enjoyed it, so I decided to give a reread to the whole trilogy because we are getting a prequel, and it's going to be the story of President Snow before we get to know him in the Hunger Games. So I'm really excited about this one. Definitely one that I'm gonna buy on the release date, because if you cannot tell, I'm really waiting for this. And these were all the things that I read in the month of February. Let me know down below what you thought about the books that I have mentioned. Have you read them? Did you want to? And also let me know what is the best book that you read in the month of February. Let's talk about it in the comments below. And before you leave, remember to give the video a big thumbs up, subscribe if you're new here, and hit the notification bell as well. If you want to follow me in other social media, I do have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Goodreads. The links to those in the description box down below. And I hope to see you all in the next coffee time. Bye!